It's always a great time to talk about color, and as we go into the holiday season, I know a lot of you are going to be sprucing up. Well, I have my own little sprucing up to do here, but one thing I do know, how you prepare your walls and your surfaces before you paint makes a really big difference in the result you get. Now, when I went to the Berger Colour Shop a few months ago, I had a really great conversation where they actually took me through the process and prodded me and probed with a lot of questions about how to prepare the surfaces of my wall. Now, this house is a case study. We got some of everything. We got chalking, we got cracking, we got bubbling, we got new surfaces, we got old surfaces, we got rust. Which means that whatever surface you will be painting this holiday season, we'll be able to show you what products are best. And I'm excited because I'm also taking a look at some of the colors for the house. Let's get started. I'm Kelly Johnley, and this is Bajan Renovation. So Ronnie, the last time I came to the Berger Colour store, I told you that I wanted some paint. Like most people, I came in with color on the brain because unless you've ever painted something, chances are, we pick our color, we go home, we start, and then it doesn't quite work like that. You asked me if I was doing a new build or a renovation, and I said it was a renovation. And then you said, well, that's a very important detail because how you prepare the walls for a renovated project is very different from when you are painting a new build. What are some of the things you need to know in order to make the best recommendations for products?
Right, as you mentioned, if it's a new wall, new surface, or one that's being redone.
Yes.
Right, so we do what we call a surface assessment.
Surface assessment.
Yeah, so the surface assessment would determine if you have any foreign particles that aren't supposed to be there.
I have foreign particles.
Yes, I can see quite a few, right?
Okay,
so of course,
you notice one or two?
Yeah,
okay.
Right, cleaning that surface, cleaning those particles off is one of the first steps.
Okay.
Right, before you actually apply the product. Because you don't want to spend all that money and then you apply it and it doesn't, and
because
it fails.
You see sometimes when people paint it and it's not the color, it's the surface. You could see, like almost like you could see textures in the wall.
Correct.
Or like some areas are darker, like almost like it going damp, if that makes sense.
Right, that is where the assessment would come to determine if you have moisture issues, which is another determination
we have moisture issues.
Yeah, of the type of product that you would need.
Okay.
All right, so the foreign particles, if there's moisture present, and of course if the smoothness of the surface, and that's smooth to the touch. People may say the wall is concrete, it's plastered, it looks nice and even. Yes, but smoothness is also very important, particularly with a repainting of a surface. If the wall is too smooth, we may have to do a slight sand or apply a primer that gives you that adhesion.
So this house is like a case study, right? And the way I see it, it's it's going to take some of everything. And as we were walking around earlier, you were pointing out different things that we would need to address. So for the benefit of those who don't necessarily live in a case study, but could probably have some of these issues, what were you looking at and talking to your team about when you were doing your assessment?
So of course, as we walked through, I was wiping my hand on the wall.
Yes.
Checking to see if there's any sediment.
I'm sure you found that.
Yeah.
So I could have told you that one.
Correct. So there's some areas that have what we call chalking.
Chalking. What's chalking?
Right. So that's actual pigment and other surface material that's coming off.
Okay.
Coming in between applying a new product and what's there at the moment.
Okay.
So you don't want that in between because you would lose adhesion.
Okay. Lose adhesion. Right.
Yeah.
And then you pay it as that in place doesn't stick properly to the wall.
Correct. You get a premature defect of the product. All right. So we're trying to prevent that. All right, so stability of the surface is key.
I like how that sounds, stability of the surface.
Correct.
They always say stable surface.
Yes.
I like how that sounds.
They always say don't build on sand.
Yes.
Right, so you should treat applying product onto the surface just like that.
Okay.
So you want to make it as stable as possible. Right, so what we do well, for the inside, it gets a little trickier because you can't power wash on the inside. Okay. Right, but you can get a damp cloth and wipe.
Okay.
All right, so that's one way of reducing the particles on the surface, and then you would apply a gripper sealer.
All right, so I know lots of people may have a space in their home like this. You have the wall that we all have been enjoying. Our photos were up. We did some work now, and here's some fresh concrete, some plastering.
Right. This is what we call a unique situation where you have the new surface meeting the old surface. All right. So uniformity also will come into play here.
Okay.
All right. So even if you were to prime just the new surface and then paint the old one into the new, you may see a difference.
Okay.
All right. Because there's a break here along the walls. So what we do for uniformity in a case like this, we utilize something called interior slick or interior joint compound.
Interior joint compound.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So once we apply that, we achieve uniformity of the surface. So with the interior joint compound, it makes everything uniform, nice and even, and then we can put the primer on.
Okay. Ronnie just now gonna ask for a Berger shirt, you know.
So
listen to me now, right? Now, ladies, and I'm saying this to the ladies because I don't know it's you all, us, that pick up the color swatches. You know how we have to have skincare? Good skincare is the foundation for good makeup. Do you know how we have to cleanse the skin and prime the skin and put on quality foundation and good concealer and then spray it to seal it in and then apply the color and then spray that too to keep the color on? It's the same process for the wall. You're welcome.
And that's a good concept.
The same way we put on the makeup.
Right.
We have to have a smooth, clean surface, or else all you are doing is packing on your makeup. And that's when it doesn't look good, but nobody's going to tell you anything. All right? You're welcome. So despite all that we have taken out of the house, there are a few things that we have kept. I have gone to great lengths to try to preserve the windows. Don't mind, some people don't like my windows, they belong to me. Right. But I also, right now, I still have the grills, and the jury is out on whether we keep the grills or we replace them. Now, just for the purpose of cost. Right. And most people tend to not just go around replacing grills. If I wanted to restore these, what do I need to know?
Right. When it comes to metal, right, the whole idea is to prevent the rusting from happening, or if you do have rusting, reversing that process.
Okay, so we have rusting because this house is a case study.
And you can see here, of course, you have some slight rusting here, so you obviously have to then sand the areas that have the rust occurring.
All of it?
Yeah, right, which is most of it. All right, you can neutralize that rust issue as well.
Okay.
All right, and then you can apply what we call a red oxide primer.
Okay.
All right, so what the red oxide primer is going to slow down the rusting process. Okay. It doesn't prevent it forever.
Okay.
Right, but it slows it down for a considerable amount of time that we can live in until you need to do the process over again. Okay. All right, so a light sand, red oxide or rust pro red oxide primer, right, and then you can top coat it with the rust pro in any color you desire. Well, certain colors, you can't say every color.
You sound like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Now, about these windows, right? For me, these windows were part of the charm of the house. Yes, I know I could have taken them out, but the truth is, if I wanted a very modern home, I would have bought a new one. Yeah. These windows, as we can see, they are stripping.
Yeah. Very strong.
Listen, this whole house is strong. This house put up a real fight. How would these windows be treated? Because I would like to ideally paint the frames black.
Okay. Right. So as we mentioned again, we check the smoothness of the surface, right? And this is what we call a little pitted. And this is a natural weathering. Okay. Right. So some metals over time will actually form their own adhesive surface.
That's it.
Yeah. Right. But what we want to still do to make sure there's nothing in between the actual surface and the new product going on, you still want to do a light sand. Okay. Right. You don't not necessarily have to break a sweat, but you just want to get the superficial dust and whatnot off of the surface. Right. And then you can apply the same primer, Rust Pro primer, and then the Rust Pro top coat. Right. There's some metals like this one, you realize you're not seeing any rust. Right. But there's some metals that don't actually attract or go through that rusting process, like galvanized or aluminium. Right. Aluminum. So this may be one, but still to protect the joints and the bolts where the welder would have probably used a type of metal that would rust. Right. You still want to make sure you prime it. Another thing that I saw you doing,
You went poking things in the walls that I didn't notice before. Y'all went poking. You see where you can't bring everybody in your place,
right? So we just mentioned
and all of a sudden identifying bubbling. As if we ain't got enough issues in this house. He had to go and identify bubbling.
Yeah.
So
as you mentioned, the foreign particles is one thing.
Yes.
Now we also have a case of moisture.
Moisture, and that's what causes the bubbling?
Yeah. So this is a perfect example of what is occurring or what occurs at a lot of properties in Barbados. Right. Of course, finding the source of the moisture is ideal. As you can see there, you can see the actual water is coming up. Right. So this is let me say a severe case of
How you know I didn't want to keep that bubble? How you know that I didn't plan to keep it?
The good thing is there are techniques to get back that bubble from there. Really.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you have, as you say, bubbling,
right.
How do you treat that now? What is your recommendation?
All right. So what I did there was the first step: get the water out of the bubbled area.
Okay.
And then we have to wire brush or scrape this surface.
Okay.
Right. So we get off everything that's loose. And then we ultimately try to find the source of the moisture.
Okay.
Right, and prevent that from happening. In a case like this, we're here by the windowsill. You may have a crack somewhere in the windowsill, or there's some kind of opening on the exterior.
We ain't got no opening on the outside. You just go with the crack.
Right,
you just go with the windowsill.
Let's go with
we
that.
are finding the problems in the wall.
Yeah. So the moisture is coming in.
Okay.
From the exterior, and it's penetrating or manifesting itself on this spot.
So you say you scrape the wall.
Right. So you scrape the wall.
Once you scrape the wall, because I'm sure there's people who can say, hey, this is going on, in my bathroom, in my kitchen, an area of my home. The wall gets scraped. What products do you use?
Right. So after that, of course, when you do the peeling, you're going to have what we call cratering. Right. So the areas that aren't peeling off are going to be still there.
Yes.
And the area that is
yes, I know what you mean. Where you see where they just say this little patch of paint was full of.
Right. Of course, if you just apply the paint there, it's going to look uneven. You're going to see the crater. So you have to sand off the edges of the cratering, right? And then you can primer seal the area that we extracted, and that should give it a little build, right? If the build isn't high enough, then you put the same interior joint compound.
I like how that product sounds. Somehow I feel we're going to have a lot of interior joint compound on this house.
Right, and the key is to create that uniformity and the height level of the paint that where it's meeting the old and the new.
Okay, so for a project like this where there's so much going on, before they start to paint, will there be like a stripping down, like we're taking off everything? Okay.
Right. In the case where you want to change the finish altogether.
Yes.
Right now,
you're asking me about that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So right now we are speaking about
preparing the wall,
and then now your desired finish is also important.
I'm glad you said that, because I remember when we first spoke, we jumped to color. I want a room and I want it to be purple. And then you did say, okay, well, we need to discuss the products to prepare the wall. And then we had to discuss how to finish the wall. And I was like, oh, well, the finishes are white. And you were like, no, the finish is the finish. And I'm like, okay, please tell us what the finishes are.
Right. So we have our flat finish. And we normally recommend that for the ceiling.
The ceiling?
Yeah, because you want a nice soft tone for the ceiling. When the lights are on, you don't want too much reflection.
Okay.
Right? You want to give that illusion that is nice, soft, and very comfortable.
A flat finish for the ceiling.
Sure.
Got it.
All right. High traffic areas on the vertical walls, we don't recommend the flat when there's a lot of contact. Okay. Right? Because it's harder to clean a flat emulsion than one with a low sheen.
Yes, I remember that from our conversation that you said to think of it as makeup, right? Where the higher the sheen, you get a smoother finish, but it also highlights imperfections.
That's the other thing.
I remember.
Right, so that uniformity is good, Kelly.
Okay, I remember.
Right. And it goes back to that same uniformity.
Okay.
Right, so once your walls are nice and uniform, you can utilize what we call a low sheen product, right, for the high traffic areas. Right, so that would tolerate more contact, scuffing, spills of drink, anything on the surface, even the children writing up on the wall.
She would not
easier
do that.
to clean.
She's a big girl.
So even for the children's bedroom,
yes,
machine is the best option.
Okay, so the next question I have to ask, because I heard some questions as the team were discussing, a smooth finish or a rough finish, and you were saying based on what you're seeing here, right? And the different surfaces that are now being done, and the different areas that need to be treated, you recommend a rough finish.
Right.
Why?
Right. And only because the rough finish is a little more forgiving when it comes to showing up imperfections. Right. So the rough finish, what we call our trouble on, and for the interior, be the trouble on flame, 1 millimeter. Right. That's a little more forgiving in terms of hiding up the ins and the outs, and all the different crevices. Right. It's going to be a lot more labor intensive for the applicator.
AKA costly.
Costly, yeah. To make the walls that uniform enough to just apply paint.
To just apply paint?
Yeah.
Okay, because and that is for our project like this. It really is a case-by-case basis, and I wanted to share with you guys, just reminding you again, that this service is actually a complimentary service from Berger. I remember you told me that all we needed to do, right, and I made sure that I did it, was to make an appointment for you or one of your colleagues to come down and assess the space, make the recommendations, not just for the products, but also for quantities, because I remember a question you asked me, so how much paint do I want? And I'm like,
yeah, so
this much.
You don't want to guess that, and then you have 3 or 4 gallons laying around, and they say, hey, overshot the amount. You know, so I could have done something before to prevent that could be money being spent somewhere else.
So just to confirm, people can call in or they could come in. I went to Berger Colour Shop in Sun Plaza. They can let you know the size of project, scale of project that they're undertaking, and if they deem it necessary or you deem it necessary, you or a team member can come out and say, listen, I've taken a full assessment of the project. These are the different products you'll need. You know, these are the quantities, and then of course we can delve into color.
Yes.
Cool.
And color will be the last thing there.
Don't make me start there.
Yeah. Assessing the surface, determining what we need, and the different types of products that will be needed. And then we can talk color.
You know, it's so funny you say that, right? Because don't mind the state of the house, right? The house could not got a roof, it could not got a light, it could not have a drop of water coming through the taps. And people be like, so what color you painted?
The first thing about that.
And I'm like,
it's first thing about that. So not necessarily the type of product.
And I think it to myself, I used to be that person, but now I know better. And I'm like, guys, we're still wiring. We're wiring. Well, the great thing is that you came with some other team members, and we will speak a bit about color, because y'all know the color business was a headache for me. But I know how to find a good and free service that you two could take advantage of. So let's talk a bit about the color that I'm going to bravely embrace. But there's at least one person in this house that is not afraid of color. My daughter very much likes pink. She is going to be 10 soon, and I am trying to take into consideration the fact that while she likes pink now a lot, her tastes may become a little more, I guess you could say, elevated, sophisticated. So Chelsea was showing me a way that I can bring the pink in along with a complementary hue that's a little deeper, that can give a bit of a grown-up feel. I think she'd like it, and I think your recommendation was to put the darker color on the back wall. And a part of the reason why we want to do this is I need this bright color to not be a part of my line of sight when I walk in. So the softer color is what you'll probably see peeping through the doorway, which is where you're peeping right now. And then the more saturated color will be on the back wall. Now, something to take into consideration, it was something that we discussed, but I didn't share when we were raising the roof. Yes, we spoke about being able to do a more intricate or sophisticated lighting system. We also spoke about the ventilation of the house that would be improved, because now that you can actually see the transition in the wall, you realize how low these walls were. Now that we are raising the roof, while it doesn't increase the floor square footage, it does increase the surface area that we have, and it allows us to use deeper colors without the space feeling cramped. So we're going to get brave with this, and I know y'all will be here for the journey. Now, you'll recall that this conversation really started at the Berger Colour store in Sunset Plaza a few months ago. And it was a great experience, because I could say that's where I had my first HGTV moment. I was able to use our color visualizer. The great thing is it's a free service that you can use either in-store or at home online. I was able to look at how different color combinations appear in different renderings. Because, you know, sometimes something looks good in your imagination, but when you see it online, it's better. Well, that was me. Another thing I was able to do was use the light boxes. Now, I know you could probably relate to this. You go in the store, the paint look one way, you get it in the bucket, it look another, and then you put it on the wall, it's like, well, that must be selling me the wrong thing. Chances are they didn't, but what I have learned is that paint responds differently to different lighting sources, and the color boxes that they have at the color center allows you to actually test how the colors respond, so you can get a sense of what it would look like in your space. Now, Chelsea came with me, bringing our trusty color deck, just to discuss some of the color options, because as you know, even though the house ain't got no roof, we are budgeting and we are making some purchases so that when we get to the stage of treating the walls, that the materials are here. This then means that we have to go through some color selection. Now, you all know I'm fairly partial to white, creamy white, but in a former life, I had a green office. It was like an emerald green. I'm not too sure which shade it was, but I'm almost thinking it was this. And I really liked it. It was something that felt really nice about being wrapped up in a saturated color. And I am thinking that this space, this room, which is going to be the formal living area, can be in a floor to ceiling color. I am willing to take that chance if you're willing to hold my hand. So you see, we have our work cut out for us, but I do feel like I'm in good hands. I believe that we'll be able to treat the walls the best way possible to ensure we get the best quality paint result. I'm excited and I actually do feel a lot more informed, and especially now that the walls are going up for the ceiling extension, I feel like I have a lot more space to play with. But don't worry, I'm not going to add anything else to the house. I've been spoken to about that. But Berger got the work cut out for them, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm Kelly Johnley, and this is Bajan Renovation.